That was good. I have something to kick us off. It's a question for you, Eric, actually,
Uh-oh.
because you're a different generation than me and Rick are. Me and Rick are in a generation called very old people.
We're
But
not.
you're
Hey, we
not.
didn't hit
Oh,
very yet.
well, okay. Yeah, that's fair. Um, so I used to, do you or did you like when you started learning to drive or when you could finally drive on your own, did you like also with your friends run around and do like degen shit, like play tag in your cars and shit?
Uh, Kinda,
Funny you
yeah.
should ask.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Um, so what do you mean by tag? What did you do? What do you mean by tag? Real quick.
Well, we chased each other around in our cars and we never really bumped each other, but we got really fucking close. And usually it ended up being like we'd drive through fields and shit in our cars. Like
Oh,
we would just dominate our town just driving like degens.
so okay, just to clarify, you played tag with like you were in a car and your friend was in a car.
Yes.
Okay,
Or we
gotcha.
would just chase each other. Like we would just kind of play a game of like catch me if you can, sort of like one person would be a lead car and the other would be a chase car.
Gotcha. Okay, well, okay. Well, I wanted to. So I think, growing up watching not necessarily Rick, but like, maybe people around that age kind of fuck off with their cars. I always wanted to. Like growing up watching movies like Dude, Where's My Car? Just fucking stupid shit
Yeah.
and shitty cars. I knew I'd always have a shitty car. I never had a dream to have a nice car in high school. I always knew it was going to be a piece of shit. So, starting there, I was always under the impression that's what everybody's going to be doing was just fucking off in their car. So I very much tried to make that a thing in my class, I guess. So I got a couple stories actually. First of all, first summer I had my car. It was a Jeep Cherokee. Rick used to have it.
I remember that one.
It actually just died a couple months ago. Believe it or
Really?
not.
No.
Yeah,
How?
it just got old. When I sold it, it was two
Just
hundred
had to
seventy
put it
thousand.
down.
Yeah,
No, dude, 270. That's fucking nuts, actually.
yeah. I don't know what it ended with, but that's when I sold it, and it lasted another year after that. So when I first started, I was working on this vegetable farm, and I know this is going to be a long-winded story, so just bear with me here. But on this vegetable farm, we obviously there's vegetables and fruit.
Oh, okay.
just
All
just to
right.
specify, it's not just vegetables, but there are watermelons here, right? And my friends and I said, hey, let's because I was a big fan of slow motion after Jackass 3D came out when I was 11.
Wow.
Big slow motion guy. So when I had the opportunity to do stupid shit in slow motion, like throw a watermelon at my windshield while going down the highway, thinking it would explode and look really cool. And I just want to preface this by saying it worked the first time.
This is the original Cybertruck.
It's the second one that gets you.
It's always the second one because the first one was rotten, so it was soft.
Oh,
The
yeah.
next one was
Did someone
hard
not hit record or what?
and ripe. No, no.
They just wanted around too.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I smashed my windshield, and to me, brand new car to me. So that was expensive. And then I lied to my parents about it and told them I hit a turkey. Yeah, and they believed it. Everyone believed it. And then my sister, who was notorious for kind of finding the truth in people, found the truth and told my parents.
Eric,
No,
you're an
no,
open fucking book.
yeah, that kind
Okay.
of. But my mom kind of felt bad. She said, "Well, it wasn't your fault, so I'll pay for your windshield." And it was like $300 or something like that, and that was like all the money in the world to me at the time.
Yeah.
And so I came clean. I was like, she can't buy the fucking windshield. Come on now. So it's a funny story now, but I was in pretty deep shit at the time. But that's one of the stories. A lot of the times I'd go in the dip.
Easy.
Whoa.
AEIOU. I would go in the ditch on purpose. And one time I was smoking a cigar and I lost ash and it burnt my leg. And I went into the ditch and took out a fence. And and I got super scared, and I scraped the shit out of the side of it, and I drove up on the ditch, and like just the back wheels are in the air. Um, and I left, got a car wash, got some blue spray paint because the Jeep was blue, and I came back to the scene of the crime because apparently that's a hit and run because I took out somebody's property, and I came back because my license plate was ripped off, and so I went down the ditch and found my license plate. Lost a fog light though that day, and tried my best to fucking spray paint it, but then I told everybody that it was still from the turkey. So because it
The
was like
turkey
weeks
was
Oh,
wearing
later.
fucking body armor.
you're a certified degenerate,
Yeah. So and that
certified fucking degen.
so a bunch of stories like that. So I'll spare you the time. But yes, to answer the question, yes.
This was all before
Uh,
he made his first fucking payment.
Yeah, it was. Technically, I put a down payment on it, but
the one that I always did when I was a kid. So like kind of down the road from like where my buddy lived, there was this minimum maintenance road, and what that kind of amounted to was a dirt road that had like whoops in it. Like it was just little whoops, right?
sure.
And so if you go fast enough down it, you can catch a little bit of air. And so we'd always take like a bouncy truck or something down there. Buddy's parents had what is the GMC, the SUV.
Sierra?
Uh
No, it's a
no,
truck.
no, no, no. That's the pickup. What's the SUV one?
Oh man,
You fucking the
Trailblazer.
that's the Chevy.
They're
That's
the
the
same.
Chevrolet.
It's the same fucking
And
thing.
well, no, it's the Yukon. They had a Yukon.
Oh,
Cornelius.
Um
ah.
and yeah, we'd blast the Yukon down there. And that bitch, like, you'd just be unbuckled in the back seat and catch mad air. It was sick.
Yeah, like when you had a sub bus driver and they didn't give a fuck or didn't know the roads, and you knew the roads and you were anticipating it.
Oh
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, you could get some major air all, when you're like 5 years old and you weigh all of like 42 pounds.
yeah,
Hell yeah, I like
yeah.
that. I just always like I want to know all the time if the degen car culture still exists because like apparently it doesn't exist in St. Cloud the way it used to in St. Cloud when I lived there.
I beat the shit out of
That's
my
sad.
Mustang.
Do tell.
Oh, uh,
Wasn't prepared for a follow up question.
well, I fucking crashed in this. So I was late to work one day, and I was hauling ass to get there, and it was a minimum maintenance road to get there. And I was hitting all the potholes and shit, bouncing and shit. And then I this was in winter, and I turned to try and get into the parking lot, and I locked my brakes up, and I slid into the back of a fucking one of my coworkers' trucks.
Did you tell
Hell
him?
yeah.
He saw it. They were all standing there watching me because I was late.
Oh shit.
Hell yeah.
Time.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I'm here now.
It's like when you
And
get to a GTA mission, you just load in after crashing in.
I beat the shit out of that car though. I tried to do shitties with it all the time, and I was not nice to it.
Yeah, I had your
That,
Camaro whipping shitties a couple times after it became my Camaro.
yeah,
That thing was a fucking monster. Yeah, first gear in that thing was dangerous.
yes, it was.
You'd roll those fucking tires. I remember the ice storm we drove home in. I think you led me, or no, you drove behind me in case something happened, but it was like straight up ice all over the roads, and I had like putts, like just go super duper slow all the way home.
With your
And that
summer
was like,
tires on it.
yeah, with summer tires and a rear wheel drive car that weighs fucking nothing. No sandbags, no nothing, just fucking raw dogging it. And those tires were old and shitty too. Like I probably should have thrown new rubber on it right away. But I was poor, so fuck it. That
Yeah,
thing was neat. I liked that one too.
Yeah.
tires are stupidly expensive. In my humble opinion.
Yeah. They make a huge difference.
I agree. What made you find out that this culture doesn't exist anymore in St. Cloud, though?
I forget, man. I think I was talking to someone who lives up there that I know still. I forget what it was. I feel like I was talking to someone and I was like, "Hey, do people still do like all this dumb shit like we used to do?" And they were like, "Nah, man. Like we used to have a bunch of cars like, every night basically like there was a couple of parking lots we'd all gather in and we'd sit there and I went to college to be a mechanic, right? So I went to the tech college for auto mechanics, and so of course me and all the other auto mechanic kids they weren't nice necessarily, all of them, but we had like cars that we would do stuff to and trucks we do stuff to, so you get like loud exhausts and big stereos and like all this shit. And yeah, we would always like meet up in a parking lot somewhere and do degenerate shit, which could be like we used to play hide and seek. We'd have one person run and hide, or like maybe a couple people run and hide, and then people would drive around town and seek. Like we would just set barriers. We would drag race down I-94. Like we would race down Division, all sorts of dumb shit. We'd go whip shitties in like the Taco Bell parking lot. Like good times. And apparently kids aren't doing that anymore, and it makes me kind of sad because like that's I legitimately like, as dangerous and stupid as some of that shit is, like I think that is what makes people get interested in cars. And I think car culture itself is like dying off, and I think that's part of it is you don't have those memories of like, yeah, I fucked off in a car, on the back 40, and I just like took the farm truck out in the field and started doing shitties, and like and then you fall in love with cars and you fall in love with racing and you whatever. And yeah, I don't know, it was just a random thought I had earlier today, kind of.
No, I think it brings up a good point because, like you said, people also, find out about cars because they have to fix them if they fuck it up, right? Or typically that's usually the trend. I certainly never did.
That's what made me stop fucking around with cars.
I
couldn't afford to fix them.
But it also teaches them like how to drive. I mean, this is a cliche thing to say, but like, like you said, whipping shitties, let's say you're in the snow and you learn how to steer, when you start sliding and things like that. I know, I also learned how to, not drink and drive in, in a less serious way, because that is a big issue in this country, but in a more of a funny way. I went to a church parking lot with my friends, and and this is the last story before we get into the big, bulky, ugly stuff that we know we're inevitably going to have to talk about. So we went there, and it was February 6th, 2016. I was 17. I was 16 at the time. And so we're in this church parking lot, family church, actually, that everybody goes to. And we're there. We're going to start drinking because we didn't have anywhere to go to drink that night. Like nobody's house was open. People were busy. So it's just these three guys. So I decided to park behind the snowbank beyond the parking lot. So already looks suspicious to, a passerby, right? Like there's just this car in a yeah. So it just looks bad. And we're back there and we're sitting in the back of my Jeep. Everybody else has their shoes and jackets on still. And I'm like, guys, get comfortable. It's only Gilman. Like this, nobody's going to fucking give a shit. And so I'm the only one without shoes and a jacket on. And so we're like, we're drinking as much as 16-year-olds can. So like half a beer and, a sip of rum. And all of a sudden we see a spotlight hit the car. All of us shit our pants immediately. You could hear it. And somebody opens the door, and I'm the only one semi-drunk because this is like the first time I ever drink. And they all bail out of the car and they kind of leave me behind. And I like grabbed one of them. I said, "Don't leave me." And they just fucked off, and they did. So I rolled down the hill again, no shoes, and it's February in Minnesota, no shoes, no jacket on, and I'm running down. I'm running through the woods basically. And there's a cornfield and there's woods, and we're in kind of a residential area. So we're running down the woods here, and those two fucked off because they were faster than I. And I was tripping, falling, cold as shit, and I'm kind of like almost in people's yards trying to figure my way out. And I see the cop. He's behind us with a flashlight following our footprints. And this is the scariest moment of my whole life. I jump into this person's woodshed, and I'm in there for a little bit, but I can hear him getting closer. I'm like, this is an obvious hiding spot. He's going to find me here. Then I get out of the woodshed, and then I'm by the person's house, by the woodshed. He looks in the woodshed. So I'm like, okay. So I was right there. So I still got my wits about me. But then he starts following the footprints the other way, towards where my friends went. And I'm like, okay, I made it. So then obviously he called back up, and there's like, they must not have had a lot to do that night. There's other cars driving by, other cop cars with their spotlights going in either direction. And one of them hits me, and he's on me for a little bit because I'm assuming he's like, is that a person? Is that not? And I breathe into the snow to try to, not have my breath go up in the air. But I was holding my breath too. Obviously that didn't work, but he drove by, didn't see me. That's fine. So I make my way back to the car, and I'm like in the trees watching them, and they all of a sudden they give up, they come back, and I think the coast is clear. But what really happened was the cop backed up and went to a shed in the church parking lot and basically hid, knowing that one of us was going to come back. And I sat in the woods for a while. Again, no cell phone, no shoes, no jacket. And I was in the woods, keeping myself warm, warming up my toesy woesies. And all of a sudden, I'm like, all right, it's been long enough. Let's get this party on the road. And I get back in the car, start it up, wait a little bit, nothing. I'm like, all right, I fucking did it. I'm getting away with this shit. Back up, drive away. Red lights go on. I'm done. I'm cooked. And immediately in that moment, I'm like, I'm driving away. I'm not doing this. Nope, I can't get away. So I hit the gas instead of, pulling over right away. But then there's a stop sign and it comes to a T in the road. So I just I gotta stop. And I stop and the guy comes up to my door and he's like, the reason why I pulled you over? And I said, I have a pretty good gas. Like, this is an exact dialogue too. I have a pretty good gas. I'm not amping it up right now. And he goes, well, it's because you didn't turn your headlights on. And I'm like, oh, because he had no cause to pull me over otherwise. Because he didn't see me come out of the grass. He didn't, you know what I mean? And then he said, now I got to ask you about that open bottle in the back. Busted. Yeah. Did a breathalyzer. I was under the legal limit, but with obviously I was a minor. So that's my story.
Nailed.
That's why he never takes his shoes off at parties.
Dude, I wouldn't either. I'd never take my shoes off ever. I'd wear those bitches to bed.
Funny you say that though. The one thing that did come from that I do every single time I'm in a car, I always turn on my headlights, even if they're an automatic. I always click them on, no matter what.
Safety first, dude.
And Kaylee's always like, "They're auto." And I'm like, "No, you don't get it. You weren't there."
I don't care. I got to make damn sure.
I had to join drama because of this shit. Anyway.
Right.
Well,
anyway,
ladies and gentlemen, the time has come.
Trump's
the time
president.
has come. The time is here. With these unprecedented times.
Unpresidential times.
So Donald Trump did it. He did it. He is president of the United States coming January. The sequel.
God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. How did it happen?
To say the least.
How did it happen? Somebody explain it to me, please.
I can say what I've been anecdotally seeing. Okay. And this is actually these might actually be good things to kick us off anyway. So what I've been anecdotally seeing is a couple of big things. The two biggest things, I guess, is what I'll talk about here. Because there's a trillion reasons that people voted for this guy, right? Yeah, some people are just shitty and some people are just racist and some people are just stupid. A lot of what I'm seeing and hearing from news sources that have been interviewing people, or there was one thing, so AOC on her Instagram page just put out a little thing, like a little Q&A box that was like, hey, so for anyone who voted for me but also voted for Trump, why?
Yeah.
Why did you make that decision? And I read a few of those answers because she posted them. I'm seeing a lot of people just wanted something different, right? They looked, I think, Kamala connecting herself to Biden, while it was kind of a noble thing to do, didn't make sense for her campaign because people didn't like what they were seeing from a Biden presidency for whatever reason. Again, mostly the economy. So just kind of that change piece. They don't want an establishment candidate. They still saw her as an establishment candidate. Trump isn't an establishment candidate, even though, I don't know, you can argue kind of that he is at this point. And the other side that I'm seeing a lot of is people, I guess, ignoring his personal things about him and just assuming that he will be better for the economy. I guess there's probably a better way, a more intellectual way to put that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are just ignoring his personal problems and issues, or they don't believe that they exist. And they're saying, well, I think he'll be better. He'll be able to fix the economy. Based on no evidence, of course, because a lot of the evidence we do have is evidence that he is going to flush this whole thing down the shitter. So yeah, for change, for the economy. I did actually hear a few interviews where people talked about Christian values being high on their list, and they voted for Donald Trump. So discuss opinions, thoughts, gripes, sadnesses.
Yeah, Rick, you can go first here.
I was just going to say that I am so fucking mad that I have to hear about this stupid fuck for another 4 years at least, assuming he doesn't actually pull the dictator card and decide he wants to keep being president, Palpatine style. I've seen a lot of what Zach was talking about. It also like sort of teeing off of what he was saying. It seems like people are incredibly just short-sighted on stuff. Like they just forget what it was like with him as president and how fucking inept he was at everything. Like it was like, oh, he's different. He's not the same. Like I get you only have two choices. Between these two choices, come on.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing too, another thing I've been seeing a lot of that I'm sure you might have been seeing that's kind of frustrating is I've seen like a surprising amount of people saying, well, Kamala doesn't have a plan. I don't understand her policies. I don't know a lot about her. And then they will vote for Donald Trump, who said he had concepts of a plan and then screamed a conspiracy theory at a debate instead of actually
Right.
talking about any policy positions.
Yeah.
Or actual real tangible plans, because we could have tariffs anywhere from 10 to 200%, depending on which are numbers that are very close. They're very similar numbers. So it'll be
So
fine either way.
so look, you've heard Bernie Sanders say like one half of 1% and all that. Once anyone start like mentions a percentage, people glaze over. They are not interested in thinking about statistics or anything like that. And that is probably the most frustrating because when someone like Kamala comes along and decently lays out at least basic ideas for policy, they're met with glazed over eyes because no one wants to think about it. They just want their problem solved. I don't want to have to think. I don't want to have to deal with nuance. I just fix it, make it good. It's like you have to think, man. If you don't think about things, shit doesn't get better. Like you have to actively participate and get involved in this stuff at least a little bit. You're just like, I don't know. I just choose not to believe he's going to take away my Social Security, and I voted for him anyway. Or I just choose not to believe he's going to deport my undocumented family, and I just vote for him anyway. It's like, but he will. What part of what he said makes you think he won't do that?
They play both sides, and I feel like we've brought this up before, and Eric has certainly, I think, alluded to it a few times, but or alluded to this type of thing where you can't have it both ways with a candidate or with an opinion, right? Because they will say the things like, oh, like I don't think he'll actually do that, right? I don't think he'll actually raise our taxes. I don't think he'll actually deport 1 million people a year at a cost of like $88 billion, I think it is. But then at the same, they'll say don't take him at his word, but then they'll turn around and say, well, like, but I believe that I believe he has these strong Christian values, or I believe he has this XYZ, or I believe he won't do those things that you think are bad, but what he is going to do is this other thing that he said. He will stop the war in Ukraine, but he's not going to put the tariffs, right? The tariffs are just a thing. Dad, don't worry about that. Don't take him at his word. He's going to stop the war in Gaza, and they try to kind of have their cake and eat it too a lot of the times. Like I've seen a few people go that route, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. Like if you can't take a candidate at their word, then what the hell are we doing here? Is kind of my thought.
So two of the most common things I see said or hear said about Trump, which they both can't be true, right? They're mutually exclusive of one another. They say don't take him at his word, but he tells it like it is. They can't both be fucking true. Okay, you have to pick one and you have to stick with it. You can't cherry pick when he says something you like. Oh, he tells it like it is, and then when he says something that fucking threatens your life or your fucking livelihood or your fucking family, like, oh, don't take him at his word. Why the fuck not? You've been taking him at his word. Done.
It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. I don't know. Eric, what have you been seeing? I think you probably have you I feel like you could have an interesting take because I feel like you directly communicate with some more righty leaning figures than maybe I do.
Yeah, I think there's been this reoccurring kind of point, and I think you guys have kind of touched on it too. But the economy aspect of things, like Kamala and that whole side of her campaign and the majority of her campaign and a lot of people's perception of her and the left would suggest that it's a lot of issues to do with social injustices, right? And a lot of, and abortion, especially now being the focal point right next to the economy for them, seemingly, if not more of a focal point for the left folks, I've heard is not a priority for a lot of people right now. The economy is. So when that takes center stage and, it's being talked about the most, I'd say, in all the debates, especially because that's the thing we kept hearing, the 9 month, whatever, the 9 month bullshit stuff. People hear that and it's a negative to the left. And then also the left isn't talking about the economy and what they're going to do for middle class. So what I've heard is, yeah, they like the people that voted for Trump is we want everybody to live the life they want to live. But at this moment in time, we also want to be able to afford to live for my life. So they're looking after themselves first and their family first. And then after that, then they can look at everybody else. So they're kind of like protecting their own French fries. And that's why Trump seemed more like a better candidate for them because of what happened in 2020, or what happened during his first candidacy, I should say, is where people were, seemingly to them making more money, gas was cheaper. And then, the explanation is, well, COVID was happening, supply and demand in 2020. That's where he left off. And people forget that, I think. And, there wasn't a whole lot going on. And then, I don't know. I think he mishandled it, but people don't remember that part. They just remember how cheap everything was. So that's what they want again. And they think it's going to happen.
I do surprisingly see, you kind of mentioned like personal freedoms and things like that. I am always shocked to see Donald Trump labeled as like the personal freedom guy. Like he's always, I saw, the after the election was called and it was clear that he had won. Everyone starts posting, or anyone that I had followed on any sort of platform that was right leaning or anything like that, was talking about like like the guy won that's going to give us the freedom to do whatever we need to do to survive and all this stuff and acting. And I'm like, some of these people, I'm like, you are just a fucking social media influencer. Like I don't even count that as a real job. I'm fucking sorry, but like, dude, I mean, if I was if I was a super attractive person, I could just post like, bikini pics or shirtless pics of myself. Like, I don't know, nobody wants to see me, but like, man, if I was just some hot dude and could like post like, I'm eating a little shake, I got my little, oh, my Starbucks, like, bro, like, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris is not going to affect your ability to post your Starbucks and make a million views off of it because you're an attractive human being. Like,
Yeah.
you just won the genetic lottery. But I don't know how he can be billed as the freedom guy or the freedom candidate when January 6th happened, which was a decidedly not very freedomy thing.
Right.
I mean
It
that,
was
and when
certainly
he
anti-democracy.
exactly. I mean, and the thing too is, I mean, if we don't, I mean, democracy is touted as it's the best thing we've thought of so far. Ultimately, I guess, as far as personal freedoms go. So yeah, I mean, to have a candidate do that and yell and scream about it was stolen and it was faked and it was blah 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 and this and that, it's just kind of shocking to me that he got billed as that. And I think it's the way that the Republican Party sells itself as a whole and continues to sell itself. You know what I mean? I think that's part of it. I mean, I think we could get super in the weeds about how people get sucked into it and how they're like selling themselves. But I think the Democratic Party needs to make a move to take back, like, look, we're not going to take your freedoms away.
Mm.
We are not taking that away. We're not limiting anything. What we are trying to do is like even the playing field, you know? And because really the only issue I can think of where the right can even make that case is the Second Amendment. But I tell you what, the freedom to not get shot in the fucking head in a mall that's a freedom that I value over the ability to go buy a fucking Glock tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need that. I need to not get my shit blown out the back of my skull. Yeah, I think the freedom thing's an interesting take.
Well, here's another thing that I feel like a lot of people on the right don't consider is that they never have to worry about a January 6th. Harris
On the
conceded the
left, you
next
mean?
day. No, the right never has to worry about a January 6th happening with us. We're not
Yeah,
going to go
right, right,
riot at the Capitol.
right.
right? Biden's not
Yeah.
going to say that's not legit and whatever, and try and force his way back into the fucking presidency. He's already met with Trump and whatever. So, but they just never consider that shit. They never consider, like, I don't have to deal with the other side going fucking crazy and deciding that they're just gonna try and take it back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do want to point out that there was no complaints. So in 2020, we heard there was all the lawsuits, there was all the crazy, there was death threats going on with like the people counting the ballots and all this stuff.
Yep.
I was literally just listening to NPR like a few hours ago on my way home from the gym. You get a sick leg pump, you get a sick brain pump on the way home. And they were interviewing some of the poll workers, and they're like, yeah, it's been incredibly quiet. It's just me and like one other observer in here, and I'm just counting ballots and doing my job. Nothing's going on. Whereas in 2020, like some of them had to call and have police protection on their house because they were getting death threats for their family. There was, of course, a trillion lawsuits going on. I think we all remember that kind of going on, like for most of that week. And there was even lawsuits set up basically just to trigger at any point when the Trump campaign would have wanted it to, and they just never triggered them because they were winning. And on the right,
Right.
there's no talk of, oh, there was a bunch of fake votes. They're still trying to rehash 2020 by using today's polling numbers and say, well, where did 10 million votes go? And whatever, we could pontificate about that.
Okay.
But the point is, like, all of a sudden, this election was fine. The last one wasn't. And even though this election took place in the exact same fashion, this one was fine.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I've been kind of frustrated with in seeing is, everybody, and it's becoming almost a meme on the old Yuletide TikTok. It's comparing how Democrats acted, no, how Republicans acted last time when they lost, and how they're acting now. Oh, we can just be friends. We can disagree. They're all acting gentle and because they won. And like you said, how Trump already had lawsuits set up. I mean, he was saying during his campaign trail um, that it was being rigged as he was speaking. Like it's already being set up because I don't think he
Mhm.
anticipated winning. So that's where I'm kind of at right now. It's just kind of frustrating to see. And then I was having a conversation with this is kind of off subject but similar. I was having a conversation with somebody. I'll leave them nameless, but how they said, well, yeah, and that dumbass Walls. I mean, look at the way he acted with George Floyd, and he let Minneapolis burn down. And that person was saying how lazy he was, and he didn't do anything, and that's pathetic for our country and things like that. And I said, well, what did you think about Trump in January 6th then? What it's similar, but this is kind of on a bigger scale. He said, well, actually Trump didn't do anything wrong.
Oh.
Legitimately exactly what this person said. And I said, what do you mean he didn't do anything? There's timestamp tweets. There's quotes out there. He came out and waved his little Bible copying Bill Clinton. He tear gassed his, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things he did wrong. And you could argue with Walls did too, but if like you said, if you're going to take that side and say how bad that side was, the other side is too then. Like you can't just like you guys said earlier, cherry pick when you want to be someone's lazy or not in office. So as far as reaction goes.
The thing too about Walls is he didn't instigate that. Okay, he
Yeah.
wasn't there tweeting saying stand back and stand by. Okay, it's not the fucking same. I'm
I compared
sorry.
it. I compared it.
I know, but like that's even like that's being very generous to the other person,
Yeah.
because that's
Well,
not
and I
the
think
fucking same, man.
calling it weak, I don't like, look, they did the best they could in the moment because you don't want to escalate a situation where people are already burning buildings down, right? You don't want to escalate that, which everyone goes, well, why didn't they call in the National Guard right away? I'm like, yes, call in the National Guard and have them start pulling the trigger on your fucking citizens right away. Don't try
Right.
to de escalate anything. Just bring it straight to 11. Let's just fucking, because these people, I think what a lot of people don't understand, like, they haven't paid attention to how like a lot of other riots and things have unfolded. You know what I mean? I mean, there's like I like when I was watching the race riots in Minneapolis unfold, I thought a lot of the LA riots back in like 1993, I think it was, right? And
Yep.
in that, I mean, that was way worse. That was like weeks. People were like killing each other. Like store owners were like just posted up on roofs with like rifles and shit. Like it was super bad. There's actually, I wish I remember what it was called. There's a really good documentary on like Netflix that I found or something about the LA race riots. But either way, man, I mean, and the thing too is like, look, I don't think Walls was weak. I think Jacob Frey kind of did a little shitty job, but he's like a young dude and was not ready to try and take on a race riot at that scale. And like, I don't think we have to super rehash it, but I don't think Walls was weak on that. You know, he did what he had to do. Eventually, the National Guard was sent in. And as we can see, anyone with eyes who wants to come visit, Minneapolis is not burning down. And in fact, is a great place to go out to dinner and walk around the city. Like, look, man, like there's bad parts of a city, I'm sure, like anywhere, but like a lot of the major parts of the city, it was a matter of weeks ago. I left a concert by myself and walked around downtown to get back to my car, totally by myself with zero incident. And like the sidewalk wasn't even full of like garbage or anything. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, dude, like everyone's doing just fine. Like if you want to talk about how weak and shitty it was, you probably don't live here, you know, or have no understanding again of like how these things work. And like you said, Rick, comparing those two things is just not it's not super fair. But yeah, but but I can see the whole thing. Like Trump was supposed to do something about J6, you know, and he didn't. So
Yeah.
And yeah, to that point, Joe, he the guy I was talking to also said like, you know, and maybe he should have done something afterwards. But then he goes, but you know, he it's over and done with now. He never really does anything with it now. And I said, well, hold on. He uses the January 6th prison choir at his rallies, almost like a giant
I
middle finger. Like he's
kind
very
of forgot
much,
about that.
and he's asked about it, and he's asked about conceding the election. I mean, he's very unfucking. I don't know. He's unpatriotic, I guess, for lack of a better word. Un-American, let's just say, when it comes to that kind of thing. And and you're still saying he's the patriotic side of the aisle. I don't know. It was an interesting conversation.
Can't be a patriot of this country and wipe your ass with the Constitution and decide I'm staying in power after I was voted out of office. That's not patriotic. By definition, that is the opposite of it. You're un-American, you're unpatriotic, and you're a sore fucking loser. Now you're gonna go. Now you're getting handed the reins of power again, and you're gonna take. Hopefully, he's too fucking incompetent to actually follow through on most of his fucking threats. But he has threatened to take revenge on people, his political adversaries, dictator on day one, all of that. And the only thing we can bank on now, boys, at least until the midterms, is his sheer incompetence and his short attention span.
So speaking of the sheer incompetence of this administration, have you guys been seeing who he's been adding to his cabinet so far?
Yeah.
I know, like, so what I have seen, I don't even know what to fire off with. Who should we start off with, boys? I would actually like to start with, I think this is the most egregiously ridiculous one, is Matt Gaetz will be the Attorney General of the United States. So he will be in charge of the Department of Justice, which is, by the way, still investigating him for sex trafficking a minor while he was seated in office. So, how do we feel about Matt Gaetz as our Attorney General to start?
So he's being So that Matt Gaetz is being actively investigated, and he's going to
Still,
be the boss of everything in January.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So there's
And
no, that's not what you would call a conflict of interest, correct?
I was going to say that seems like a huge conflict of interest. But no, well, good for him. He made the next step. Uh, no, it's ridiculous. I don't even know who this guy is, but I just read. I heard a
You know who Matt
TikTok.
Gaetz is?
Not really, no. But
Bucky.
I
Dude is
saw
a
his face a
five-head.
couple of times. Yeah,
His face is an interesting face.
I heard that he was basically forced to resign in a couple days, then or something like that, because I don't know. I
I
read
think
that
people
just
wanted him
but,
to. I
yeah.
think people wanted him to, but he's so I can't remember how long ago this was. This investigation's been going on for a while, but the trafficking a minor charge came up, and I think he was called on to resign, and he just said, "No, I don't want to." And here he sits. And again, now he's going to be in the seat of power for the department that's investigating him. I have a tinfoil hat kind of theory on this. So nobody who's listening should take this as a fact. This is like just kind of a sideways thing that I'm wondering. As an aside, all of Donald Trump's lawsuits, they're now gone. They're down the drain. There's no way
Yeah.
forward with any of them. And I think every legal scholar is just going to, that's what they're going to come up with. I know like his sentencing has been pushed back so that everyone involved in that case can kind of figure out what the hell the next step is. There isn't a next step. There is kind of some protections in place for you can't have a sitting president going through court stuff because it kind of takes away from his ability to do the job. And I'm wondering if Trump put Matt Gaetz there as part of a deal so that Matt Gaetz gets a similar treatment as the seat of the DOJ. That's my tinfoil hat thing. We'll see how it plays out. I am not a law scholar. While I wanted to go to law school when I was younger, I was far too stupid and not serious. So that didn't happen, which is why I went to a tech school. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on that
Yeah. I mean, Rick, did you want to add to that at all?
one.
I'm fucking disgusted by it all because, like Zach said, none of them are gonna see any sort of modicum of consequence for their actions, and it's so goddamn infuriating because, again, Party of Law and Order voted this fucker in. He's a felon,
Yeah.
and he's getting all of his fucking buddies, the good old boys, to they're gonna do a circle jerk, and everyone's gonna get off on it.
This administration does feel so. I was talking to my wife before this. So I was concerned that if Trump won again, the second round would be scarier because he would have people around him that kind of have a plan, right? You'd have the Project 2025 people, all the Heritage Foundation motherfuckers would get in there, and a lot of actual like intelligent, dangerous people would be around him, but he is surrounding himself with people that just like got on their knees for the last 4 years and have blown his little mushroom to oblivion, and now they have cabinet positions.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm seeing. So because okay, so now Secretary of Defense Pete something from Fox and Friends, who allegedly has not washed his hands in 10 years. He doesn't believe in germs,
Oh my
and
fucking
he's
god, dude!
and he, yeah, and he's on record as saying that women shouldn't be going to war because men are just built for that. We're built to actually go to war and shoot guns at people. Pew,
I
pew.
hope I hope
So
he
that's
has
him.
a disease on his hands and he shakes hands with Trump and he gets him fucking sick or something.
That's fucking
I,
disgusting.
I can hope for that.
it,
That's
it's
allowed.
it's so rancid to just not believe that germs are a thing. And also, this guy, like, I think he served in Iraq or Afghanistan, in one of those theaters of war, but like that does not make you qualified to be the Secretary of Defense. That's usually held by like former or like generals and like people that know their shit. This is just like a weird guy from Fox and Friends on Saturday morning, right? Like, so what the fuck? Like, our military is led by like that guy? Just some guy that won't wash his hands?
Dude,
Just
can
some
you
like
imagine?
filthy fuck?
Okay, couple things. First off, can you imagine Trump sitting there flipping through channels? Like, I want that guy.
This guy's got a point. Get him on the phone.
And
I
then
like his
secondly,
hair.
what if the fucker's wiping his fucking ass after taking a shit and he fucking punches through the toilet paper? Still no? Still no? You're
Yeah, I
not gonna
wonder
fucking
what's
wash up? Does
yeah,
he
how far does
shower
it
like this? He fucking keep his hands out of the fucking water? How do you do that,
Who
asshole?
admits to that? Who admits to that?
Right.
How
Fuck
does this
you.
a
information
very
get
a
leaked?
very gross person. Well, no,
My
well,
God.
okay, well, my wife was saying too, like she's known people like that, and they're rich people. Fucking rich people just apparently think they're immaculately clean at all time. I don't know. I don't understand being rich. I grew up without cable TV. I don't fucking know how this
Yeah.
works. Like
Could you
I
imagine being
don't
his
know,
wife?
dude. Oh my God. Just fucking oh honey, I'm gonna go to town on you with the clean hand. I washed one of them for you.
with these mitts.
Yeah,
God.
I rinsed them off.
Jesus
I rinsed
Christ.
them off in the fucking sink for you, in the kitchen sink, right above the dirty dishes. Let's go.
Fucking just goddamn 2 Romneys on your hands. Jesus Christ.
Dude, it's have you guys ever seen the movie Mallrats?
No.
You
No.
got to see Mallrats. Fucking classic. Banger of a movie. So there's this part of the movie. Do you know who Jason Lee is? He's from like My Name
Oh,
is
Yes.
Earl.
oh, I've seen
He
it.
was in Clerk. Yeah.
I've
Okay.
seen
Yeah. Jason Lee. There's a scene in the movie where he goes to like the one like the girl's dad who's like a huge piece of shit. He's like hosting this game show, and he gives him like a fucking chocolate pretzel that's like he just like wiped his ass on it or whatever. Like he got fucking his handful of ass and dunked it in the pretzels, and then like he's like, "Here, do you want another pretzel?" Like whatever. It's like one of those. Like this guy has just been doing that to people for 10 fucking years. Like just giving them these fucking pretzels full of like shit.
That's disgusting.
So that's that guy. Yeah, don't know much else about him, but I think the coup d'etat to it all is the Department of all this whatever bullshit of government efficiency. Department of
Doge.
Government Efficiency, yeah, which Elizabeth Warren aptly immediately pointed out is run by two people. It's a job for one guy, and it's two people, and it's supposed to be more efficient. So, um,
Off to a great start, guys.
we're off to a killer start. I also feel like, okay, so like, look, I get it. The government's inefficient and we're doing all this weird shit with money. But you have to start a whole other department about it because now, to be efficient, you're going to build the infrastructure for another department to tell other departments how to be good at being departments. Like, shouldn't the whole
Yeah.
thing just be like those departments just get run better, like individually,
Yeah.
instead of
You're
making
going
a
to
whole
start a
goddamn.
department that's going to turn around and say, we should cut all these departments. Like, what about you?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and again, so there's two rich folks, both of which are just dorks. Elon is a fucking dork, and Vivek is just like not a serious individual. He's
That's
just
offensive to
painfully,
dorks.
dude, for real. So you got these two rich fucks that both are beneficiaries of government subsidies in the government. So, and like Elon's not going to divest from Tesla, and Vivek's not going to divest from whatever like goddamn back alley fucking trash he's involved in, whatever his thing is. It's like, what are we doing? Which also means we have to see more of both of them, like on the
Yeah.
news, which is going to be just painful.
I'm Doc Maga. Dude, I can't fucking stand that fucking guy.
Like Doc
Yeah.
Maga, fucking
Like,
dork.
then he just goes, he is so, oh my God. If there's anybody that, whatever, I'm not even going to talk about it. It upsets me. But there was something I was going to say. Oh, yeah, this is just like the perfect, they should make a movie about this where somebody gets elected president and it's just everybody just turns stupid and the whole country is just stupid at this point. And then somebody goes back from the past and enters it. Oh, wait, they already did that. That's what we're living in right now. That's what's
You know what?
happening. I'm
I
the
would vote for
secretary of
President
fucking
Camacho,
weed,
dude.
dude. It's fucking
I'd vote
stupid.
for Camacho. Camacho 2028, dude. Fucking Camacho Mountain Dew, whatever the fuck his name is. I forget the whole thing. Terry
Escape.
Crews.
Dude, this
Dude,
sucks.
like it does. It's just so much incompetence in one building.
Oh, man.
It's scary. It's like we can say, and I really feel bad for women. The first thing I thought of was when I saw the election results. The first thing I thought of was Kaylee. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but then again, we live in Minnesota, so there's that kind of layer of protection. But just people that aren't in those protected states right now, right? Like the southern-ish states are more right-leaning and have those strict laws. But I think that's just where we're at right now. And I think, being straight white men, we're kind of almost protected too in a way, right? We got
Oh yeah.
very
The
little
system-
to worry about.
The system's been designed for people like us. Like that's, but it's, I care about other people. Like that's the thing,
Right.
know?
It's very much, God, it's just like I said, it sucks, but I woke up I checked my phone at 5:00 in the morning on the election night, and right away I was just like, oh my God, it felt like a gut punch. And then just knowing that, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the show Community, but there's like
God, yeah.
different timelines in
Banger.
one of the episodes. We are about to be in the darkest timeline come
Oh
January,
yeah, dude. Yeah.
and I'm not looking forward to it. And I'm very very anxious almost to see, is it going to be as bad as everyone was anticipating, or is he going to flop because he's so incompetent, like Rick said? Like, is it going to be? I hope we're wrong, right? Like everyone at this point is
Right.
on the left is saying we hope we are wrong. Like we want to be wrong, and then they can laugh at us. But at the end of the day, no one's going to be that in that bad a shape. And then he's only got these 4 years, and then he's done forever, barring a dictatorship. So,
Which
like,
even then, at the end of this, he's going to be what, 82 years old?
yeah,
Let's be fucking
Hopefully,
real, dude.
but I
yeah.
don't want him to be here anymore.
I just Go
Yeah,
ahead,
like
Matt.
I don't know, and I think we could probably do like an entire goddamn podcast about some of this stuff, like why people get sucked into this aura of his. But like, I do strongly agree that that yeah, like I mean, I worry about my people, right? I mean, I have sisters, those sisters have kids, and all this stuff could affect them. Like the abortion bans at some point could affect them if there's a federally mandated one.
Not only that, these kids are fucked because they're going to dismantle the Department of Education. That's
Right.
on
So
the
yeah,
fucking docket. That's on the chopping block. And so, even if you have a kid, all the resources that we had in school won't fucking be there. They won't. They'll get a worse education. They'll be dumber, and then they'll vote for someone like Trump.
and then there we go again, right? I
Yep.
mean, well, and the thing too, I wondered this about something else, but like it's tying into politics now when I think about it. So I see a lot of like bullshit fitness stuff, right? Like now people are like saying that like receipts are gonna like murder your testosterone and you'll never get jacked and you'll be super unhealthy. Like I'm not even kidding. People are afraid to touch receipts now. And I think part of that is just it's usually fucking like privileged people, privileged white people, honestly, making this shit up. And I'm kind of wondering if we've hit a point in America. Like I understand America has its problems and whatever, but like have we hit a point in America where enough of us have it so good that we just have to start making shit up and forgetting what got us here in the first place, which was, I mean, in that case, like science, like, vaccines and studying like, what actually like hurts a human body and regulating our food and things like that, because that's always a big deal. Oh yeah, we can talk about RFK too. Side note at some point. But Rick looks excited. But are we just making up these big problems and now we're saying like that Donald Trump is the one that can solve them, right? We're making up this like immigration is a problem, sure, but are we making it bigger than it needs to be? Are we making up a problem with our education system? Because our education system, while flawed, is better than it's going to be once we fix it, quote unquote, right? Just like, the FDA and all this stuff, once RFK gets his fucking filthy mitts on it, I mean, what does that look like? I mean, they want to bitch up and down about how Fruit Loops has dyes in it, but then they want to turn around and sell you a completely unregulated nutritional supplement,
Right. It's
which is
better
not
not
regulated.
regulated.
Exactly. So, like, are we just making up fucking problems now?
You know what's funny? Another thing that I've heard about is sort of the beginnings of infighting within the MAGA group of people, because he had sort of promised to put certain people or appoint certain people in his cabinet or whatever the hell, and he ended up going with different people like Vivek and Matt Gates and whoever the fuck else it was. I don't remember.
Say, yeah, Tulsi Gabbard has I forget what she got, but I just saw shortly before hopping on that she got a job doing
Yeah.
something. I forget what it is.
And so now Trump is being accused of being part of the deep state by his own
Oh my
fucking
God,
people.
they've looped
Like
around. They've
they're the
horseshoed.
fucking Ouroboros of political parties. And that would be the fucking best way for him to like just lose all fucking political power.
Dude,
It's just
just
a
like they're
fucking
just gonna Julius Caesar his ass.
right.
Fucking et tu, Brute. Come on.
Et tu, Brutus.
Just Brutus. Jesus Christ. Oh my
Brody.
God.
Is that you? Yeah. No, Zach, I wanted to talk about what you just said though. About the creating of the own problems because we have it so good. My boss actually said something similar to that, not necessarily on this broad scale. He said this like a couple years ago when I first started at my job, obviously. But he said, we're seeing a lot of people kind of, and he was morally dogging on the left here, but now that you say that, I could see it in other facets of life. But are we at a point where people are, yeah, exactly what you just said though, like life's so good that, and good, as good as subjective, but like we're at a point where you look around and you're like, god damn, I just gotta, like, this isn't great enough, like my toenail clippers can't clip my nails fast enough, and that's stupid, and then Walmart's screwing me over, and the receipts are bad now too, and your balls shrink because of it, and now that's an issue, you know what I mean? So but yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. Like if that were ever, if there was ever a path of information there, I'd definitely follow it. And then, but I also kind of want to expand on that a little bit though, or bring it to a different direction. Like you said, like maybe the famous or rich or wealthy people in America, not necessarily the white men and people like that. But I think, and this isn't saying anything out of school, but I think what's happening though is they're all creating these mundane problems that everyday people, middle class people, have to deal with to kind of pull us away from, almost, again, this isn't saying anything new, but like almost making us fight with each other on either side, or having two polarizing candidates. And at the end of the day, like, like I said earlier, people are going to pick probably money and themselves over the overall good for everybody. So, and when they do that, they're usually going to pick somebody and put them in office that's going to benefit the wealthy too, because everybody tries to achieve to get to that level of income, right? Like every Republican I've ever met, like, well, I'm going to be more rich than my parents. I'm going to do this. So like they can see themselves benefiting from those higher taxes for, like, or something like that, or tax cuts, I should say. So I think like when people vote that way, they don't think they're hurting themselves. They think, well, that's not going to affect me because I'm going to be up there. I'm going to be up there with them. Like he's speaking to me because I will be there one day. They don't see themselves as the middle class. They see themselves with Trump up there with them.
Right. They're a temporarily embarrassed millionaire.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
It's kind
I
of
think that
funny
makes
to
a lot of
think that
sense.
your super rich boss thinks that the average person has it too good.
It's
That's a hot take from Captain Rich Guy who doesn't do anything substantive.
it
Anyway,
is
Yeah.
spicy. That is spicy.
He what he said it to, and I'm not saying this, and I don't agree with it necessarily, but he referenced people acting like animals and needing that rumor with the litter boxes in bathrooms at schools.
mm,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sure you guys
yeah,
have heard of that. Yeah, he said, "Well, now
yeah.
we're just creating problems because we don't have anything to do," and then he expanded on that. So
that's to sort of add to your point, Eric. A lot of things, especially on the right, I'm not going to say the left never does it, but it's mostly the right that I've seen, is that they make shit up to be mad about. It's not real. It's not substantial, like provable issues that we have to deal with. It's the litter boxes in school, or teachers trying to coax kids into having fucking their nuts chopped off. That shit doesn't happen. It doesn't fucking happen.
but then
And
that gets everybody in a stir, and then we vote for and by
right,
we I mean majority people vote for the right guy.
the facts that don't care about your feelings, people strictly react based on their feelings and vote for the guy based on shit that's not real. They're living in a different reality, and they arrive at the wrong conclusion because of it.
Well, look, like the left can get annoying. I get it because there's a lot of things you have to learn, right? Like you have to learn that sometimes people use a different pronoun than what they are outwardly look like, or like you have to learn that like transgender people exist. God forbid, right? Look, man, like sure, some of this stuff goes too far. Like I've seen shit like these neo pronouns and some of this stuff. I'm like, I don't know if I can get on board with you like at this point because there is a point, right? Like there's a point where I don't go that far left, I guess, or whatever. But you know what? Like this whole movement now and like so much shit in Project 2025 aims to get rid of anything talking about like gender ideology or sexuality or anything like this. And I've even spoken to a guy before who got really, really upset that they included like sexuality in these discussions in school, like when they're going through puberty. And I think it's a thing where people don't realize, and I probably wouldn't have realized it, had I not really thought about it or had it explained to me. That inclusion, right? So like say you're a kid, I don't know about you guys, but I had like a sex ed like thing in like 5th or 6th grade or something, right? To be like, hey, you're gonna go through puberty, your voice is gonna change, and here's all this weird shit that's gonna happen. You're gonna get like super jacked all of a sudden. And it's going to be really cool, and you're going to be really hairy, and you're going to want to have a lot of sex with girls. But imagine you're like the one dude in class who like you're growing up and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know, girls don't look good, but like this guy, I want to sit on his face. But now you don't understand if that's okay or that's real or like where that
Yeah.
comes from or what the hell you're doing because nobody ever said that like being gay exists. And now you could feel shunned because like, I mean, when I was growing up, like, dude, if you came out as gay, it was a complete fucking crapshoot how you were going to be treated, if
Right.
you were outwardly a gay person. So now, I can't fucking imagine. I guess the other thing about it is like, you know what? Sure, I guess you can be annoyed by this stuff, but like, who the fuck cares, dude? Like, if I walk up to someone and I say, "Hey, sir," and they go, "Actually, I use female pronouns, or I use they them fucking pronouns, or whatever it is." Okay, the fuck? Why does that take any skin off my ass?
Right.
Like that doesn't negatively affect my life in any way. It changes the language I have to use around them, which is a thing you're doing a lot of because you don't walk up to black people and start dropping slurs or Asian people and start dropping slurs. Like you have to change. It's called code switching, which is what
Yeah.
people yelled at Kamala for, the whole changing accents thing. She's probably fucking code switching, which we all fucking do all the time. Like, it
Yeah. Yeah.
just is what it is. It's a way of language. So like all this fucking bitching about pronouns. There's a dude I work with, great kid, uses the term woke unironically. And at one point, I kind of played dumb and I went, man, like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what are you talking about? Because he was talking about it in reference to video games or whatever. And he's like, well, like, all the pronoun shit. And I'm like, man, I just don't fucking care about that. And he's like, well, I don't either. And I'm like, no, like, to be clear, what I mean is, I do not give a shit what you want me to call you. And to be clear, like if you want to put out a Spider-Man game with like where Spider-Man is like a transgender they them who uses fucking like I don't give a shit if it's not Peter Parker who's just a white fucking cisgender straight guy. I don't care. It does not fucking matter to me. Like it literally just does not make a difference in my life whatsoever. So that the fact that people are trying to legislate away this stuff is just fucking wild. And then they call the left the whiners and the criers.
Right.
I don't know, man. I ain't cried about a pronoun once. Not even once.
Right.
Doesn't bother me. I would be embarrassed. It's never happened. I would be embarrassed if I was called out, but that would happen no matter what the situation was. So it's just embarrassed. Like if I misgendered somebody, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
But
hey,
like
you. Oh, it's
just
yacht. You know what I mean?
we'll just be like I feel like look, some people are probably dicks about it when they're correcting people because they don't know how to handle it or something.
Mhm.
I don't really know. But like well first in my experience, I don't I've had it happen once where someone said that they are non-binary. So basically, and we had a very short conversation. We're like, okay, well what like how do we and they're like, oh, honestly, like just use my name. That's kind of what it amounts to. Sick. You know what happened the rest of the night? I tried to avoid using like she pronouns,
Mm.
which is what I was using. I just tried to avoid it. And if I did on accident, I say, oh shit, like my bad. I'm just trying to adjust here. And again, didn't hurt. It wasn't like physically painful for me to do that or anything. So I don't really, my dick didn't get smaller. Like none of that
Oh
happened.
shit.
Like, yeah, my wife still loves me. I don't know. Like I didn't lose the house. I don't, my car was still, didn't just blow up. Like I don't, nothing bad happened. So the fact I think there's this assumption where if you misgender someone, you're gonna get like fucking screamed at, and that has just not once been my experience. Not once.
Well, it goes to that false problem too that Rick was talking about. Like people make up the story, well, they're going to yell at you, and then everybody's like, well, they expect me to know. You know what I mean? No, that never happens. They don't expect you to know. They want you to know. So when you get corrected, please try, like you, Zach, like what you just said. Try to do your best. If you fuck it up again, keep trying. This is like learning. That's how learning works, right?
Yeah.
Don't be a bitch. Be a baby, and then be an adult.
Well,
Learn.
and it's like dude, like it's like if you walk up to me and you shake my hand and you go like, "Hey, hi, my name is Eric," and I go, "All right, nice to meet you, Dave," and you
Yep.
go like, "No, actually, like my name's Eric," and I'd be like, "Ah, yes, Ethan." Like, if I keep fucking up your name, yeah, you're gonna get fucking worked up about it because it's like, bro, I fucking done told you my name.
Yeah.
You know, like I've had people fuck up my name and I just like I feel like no, like Zach. I think you mean Zach. Oh yeah, yeah, my bad. Again, nobody blew up.
Somebody fucked up my name today. Called me Aaron, and
Yeah,
I just said
yeah,
Eric, asshole.
Whatever, Steve. Anyway,
yeah. I said Eric, and then I put him in a headlock and fucking.
And she said, "Here's your burrito, fat fuck. Why don't you enjoy it on your way out?"
for last time, it's Eric.
Yeah. Don't know why you got
Let me
fat fuck
tattoo
on.
it on your ass. Dude,
Oh
that's the
boy.
thing. That's the thing. I think yeah, I think people need to just shut the fuck up about it. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know.
Well, they're not going to now. You know that, right?
I
They're
know,
not
dude,
going
they
to shut
really
up.
aren't going to. I just
You seen
yeah,
Nick
I mean,
Fuentes, that fucking video, dude?
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Everyone's boners are showing. Like, you know, you're not going to get him to shut up about it now.
Yeah. Did
No.
you hear somebody
There
lit his house on fire?
no way.
Yeah.
That's
I
kind
didn't
of
hear
funny.
that.
So someone doxed him. Then he went to
But
his mom's house, a
shouldn't
woman to
say that.
protect him. And
Yeah.
then somebody lit his house on fire. So
Damn.
Nick Fuentes house fire.
Seemed to
then there's
happen to a
jokes.
better guy.
Then there's jokes out there. I got that from TikTok. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. Then there are jokes out there like, what was the house wearing? Did the house deserve it?
I think I saw something like that, and that I didn't understand what they were referring to.
Oh, of
Yeah.
course.
Okay, yeah, I saw like a video like that. I'm like, house fire? Like, what are they talking about? This is it didn't like I didn't have that context. No, here's the thing, man. Uh I hesitate to say people should go look up that Nick Fuentes video because it is like I got viscerally fucking mad.
Me
Like
too.
I think I was like sitting in my car and I was just like scrolling Instagram for a second when I came across it because like a lot of the people I follow were reposting it, going like, "Dude, like this is the people that are empowered now." Nick Fuentes has always been a huge piece of fucking shit anyway. Like the guy's
Yes.
absolute dog shit as a human being. Like, I don't know. I think we can say that on this fucking podcast officially. Like, he's fucking dog shit.
I think
But
that's the stance of this podcast. Yeah.
yeah, I think I speak for all three of us here when we say Nick Fuentes can just get all the way fucked up the ass with a fucking pineapple, like little Nicky style. But like to have the fucking balls to sit in a room and scream that. And here's what's more fucked up. So a lot of who elected Trump is these people that got sucked into what people are referring to as like the Manoverse, which is like him and other streamers like him and like Joe Rogan podcast listeners and shit, right? That's where he picked up that like 18 to 29-year-old like big
Yeah.
uptick was like from that. And so anyone who's involved in that, all these dudes, like all these sad little people with no actual like ideology for who they are have picked that up now. And I saw that like up in excuse me, up in a high school up north here, were high school kids, presumably male kids, walking around like chanting or saying to girls, "Your body, my choice."
Yeah.
Which I want to be clear, if I had a child and they said that, I would no longer have a child. I would have a victim. I would have a victim of going full Goggins on their ass. They would be up at 3 in the morning. We'd be doing thousands of push-ups. We would be running for miles. He would be just swimming in cold water, and then he would do homework in the basement by himself until he figured out what the fuck he did wrong. Like that is an absolutely horrific thing to say to any fucking person. Like, and by the way, if you say that to the wrong girl who like knows like Muay Thai or something, and she beats your fucking ass, I don't know, man. You asked
Please
for it.
record
What
it.
were you wearing? Yeah, please get video and send it in, because damn.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. When I first saw that video, it fucking it I my blood was boiling. I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm not even a woman. I couldn't imagine how a woman would feel seeing that.
Well,
Just
Oh,
disparaged, just to just destroyed that some fucking little short cunt was saying that on the internet, knowing that there are followers out there feeling the same way, knowing that they're inspiring young men to say that, like you said, out of school.
Well,
I couldn't imagine how women feel.
The dude was cackling about it. Like
Oh,
he
dude,
was
he was
giddy.
thrilled.
It was,
Like I
it
said,
was evil.
his hate boner was showing. Like he was excited sexually about this. Okay,
Oh yeah.
like dude was fucking worked up, and he's fucking cackling and saying your body, my choice. And who the fuck can take this guy seriously about anything? He was so fucking creepy
How old
about
is
it.
he?
26, I think.
I would
He's
say he's a
26.
younger dude.
I thought he was 17. I thought he was
Yeah,
a
dude.
17-year-old person.
Yeah.
No, he's a younger dude, but
He's
yeah, not that
26
young.
years old. It's too old to be doing that shit. He was like jumping on the table.
Oh,
He's
dude,
fucking
he was
like a little
thrilled.
demon.
Well, and again, it's a thing where I think I've said it before, not on here, but like I've said it in conversation. I was kind of more afraid of who Trump brings with him than Trump himself into this
Yeah.
because I think we saw last time what we saw was a lot of those people like him felt empowered to be assholes again, which is why we got neo-Nazi rallies and fucking an uptick in Klan rallies and racial violence during Trump's first term, right? So
Right.
it's like and just because Nick Fuentes got doxxed and it sounds like he might have kind of got his, it doesn't mean there's not a bunch of dickheads right behind him. And I think that like I don't know, this could probably be a whole podcast. It might be interesting like on its own, but like I think it's because a lot of God, how do I say this without sounding like just a complete fucking boomer? There's an issue with I think a lot of younger dudes that like don't have a solid idea of who they are. Like they don't have a good core set of values for whatever reason. I'm not going to say absent fathers. I'm not going to say absent parents. I'm
Mhm.
not going to say any of that shit because I know that that's not it. Um, I have evidence of that. Like I've cut off a family member who was exactly like this. Just he just never found out who he is, and now he's turned into a piece of shit. And it's just like I think that like people like Nick Fuentes and I think people like Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson really
Yeah.
speak hard to that, and they get picked up and now all of a sudden they're run around thinking that like haha it's very silly and whimsical to talk about raping women, and then we
Yeah.
get called violent on the left when we say, hey, if you do that, I'm going to kick your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. They get called garbage and they piss themselves crying. Um,
mhm.
yeah, that so the Fuentes thing happened, and then I also saw a CNN reported uh, outside of a Anne Frank, I believe it was a play that was
Mm.
happening at the
Yeah, the
Allegiant.
Diary of Anne Frank.
They're Nazis outside, and that's what you call them when they're carrying Nazi flags. So they were outside with Nazis flags, and with a Nazi flag in the background, an American flag, and then they were covering their faces like the cowards they are, and
Mhm.
just outside, just being assholes. So just like you said, an uptick in that. So that's happening again. Um, my first thought when you said like, he got his Fuentes and his house is on fire or
It's not.
allegedly. It didn't happen. Okay. So, but he got doxxed. So that's a thing for sure that happened.
He did get doxxed. Yeah.
So,
That is funny.
if there's any kind of recourse as far as violence goes to these people that are kind of pushing the envelope a little bit, um, wouldn't that be cause for like, I don't know, but violence from both sides, let's say. I don't want to say civil war, but you know what I mean? Like who's gonna break first, I guess, at this point. If they keep like, hey, we won, or your body, you know what I mean? Like they're the bully, and at some point the fucking kid that's getting picked on is gonna fucking snap and beat the shit out of him.
So
Yeah.
yes, but I've also seen a lot of people, like what Zach said, cutting off their family about like for who they voted for, and when they do, they show them like this is they show them the video of Nick Fuentes, and they're like, this is why I don't like your vote. Encourage people like this to come out of the fucking woodwork, and that's why we're not. I can't be in the same room with you. I can't look you in the fucking eye because it's just disgusting that you supported a guy that could bring out this much vitriol and hate, and then you want to say, "Oh, let's all come together and sing kumbaya." No, I don't want to do that.
No, I think this is important to state too. Like, I think that's a really important point. Like these disagreements are not about politics anymore. When I was arguing with people for Barack Obama over John McCain, that was talking about politics, right? When I was arguing as a little kid who didn't know anything that I liked Al Gore for some fucking reason over George W. Bush, which turned out to be the right fucking choice, probably. Um, that was arguing about politics at 11 years old. Like all of these things. But ever since Donald Trump has come in, we're not arguing about politics anymore. The first round, we probably did a little more, but at this point, we're not. Like, we're arguing about human rights. We're arguing about women bleeding out in parking lots in hospitals. We're arguing about whether or not neo Nazis should feel comfortable roaming the streets, like with their Nazi flags, like you said, and doing the disgusting shit, like standing outside that play. You know, this is what we're arguing about. We're arguing about the rights of these people. We're arguing about rights of transgender people, of gay people, um, and I just don't understand why that's not clicking for these people, right? And I think it's really important to like make that distinction. And if you are a person who feels the need to cut someone off or whatever, and not even strangers on the internet, if you got to cut your family off or you got to cut friends off, and like that shit really sucks. But I think it is important to make it clear, like, look, there's a serious difference in values here. And like you said, I can't sit in the same room with you, you know.
Right.
And I mean, I think it's fair. Even before this, I think it would have been totally fair to if one of your friends just came out as super racist or something, you might be like, "Hey, man, really not comfortable being around you because you're screaming hard R's at every person we walk by, and that's kind of fucked up." Like it's okay to drop people on a difference of values, and that's where we're at now. There's no politics to argue
Right.
because we don't even know what the fuck this guy is going to do once he sits down behind the Resolute desk again. Like,
Right. Well, and I will say, look, if you voted for the same guy that emboldens neo Nazis to come out of the woodwork and be show everyone what they are in front of the sunlight and God and everyone, you're on the wrong fucking side. Period. Okay, you're on the wrong side. I don't know how to explain that any more clearly to anyone. If you voted for the same guy as neo-Nazi Jim did, you're wrong.
he might be a Nazi.
Yeah,
You
I
might
don't
be a
know.
fucking Nazi.
I don't know how you can be American and like,
Nazi.
you know what I mean? I don't know how you can be an American and not see that you're on the wrong side.
Ah,
But no, seriously, like how can like hey, my great grandpa fought in World War II, and I'm voting for the guy that's letting Nazis back in our country and walk around the streets like they won the war that he fought for. You know what I mean? Like, could
And
you
here,
imagine the reverse in history that's happening right now in front of us?
well, and here's the thing too, is a lot of people would probably pull the line that like, well, he's not saying these things, right? Like Donald Trump isn't saying them. He's not saying come out, but he's not telling them to go away.
He's
And
he's enabling it in America.
right. I
Well,
mean, it goes all the way back to the plenty of fine people on both sides thing for Charlottesville. No, there's not. There was not plenty of fine people in that instance. There was
right.
a bunch of neo-Nazis, which are not fine people. And look, like I'm a guy that's always firmly believed in giving people, like second chances. Like I know that you see all the stories of like there's this story I've seen like a couple of times and I can't remember his name and it sucks. There's like this black guy that would go to Klan rallies and he would one-on-one with these Klan members, like, and he would get them to like quit the Klan, stop being racist, all these things. And I think he like collected like their robes and shit. He had dozens of them,
Wow.
and there's story like I'm not the guy to do that. I'm not going to do that. But there is all those stories of people getting a second chance or being convinced like, hey, you're kind of on the wrong side of things. But dude, I don't know. I just feel like we shouldn't have Nazis still. Like I just very firmly feel like if you're a neo-Nazi, you're kind of at a point of being not forgivable, you know? And if you're, again, like you said, if you voted for the guy that kind of allows neo-Nazis to roam the streets and he's like really beats around the bush about saying that they're not good, like that's not good.
Right.
That's bad. So I don't know. I don't know. Fuck Nazis.
Yeah.
There was
That
a
should be common ground.
oh dude, that is, yeah. 350 million Americans should vote for the fuck Nazis. Like, we got to bring back. There was a, I can't remember what it was called. There was an actual name for it, and I was trying to remember it the other day. But back in the 80s, like punk scene, there was, or maybe even earlier. Um, but there was a skinhead movement, right, which was all like Nazis, which is why I joke around that I look like a white supremacist because I'm fucking bald and have tattoos and shit. But there was a counter movement to that that was like a skinheads against Nazis type of movement, and it had a specific name. You have to find it; it's kind of cool. But basically, all these skinheads that hated Nazis would, they'd go to punk shows, and if they found a fucking Nazi, they would basically beat the shit out of him and throw him out of the club. Like, was the whole thing. Um, which I think brings it back around to it's kind of brings it back to Eric's finding the TikTok where it was like, hey, like white guys need to make podcasts for white guys so that they stop getting fucking radicalized into the far right by Joe Rogan.
And that's what we're here for, ladies and gentlemen.
You're welcome.
We're gonna change your mind in the worst way possible by being dumb at you until you believe us.
Just
Hey,
like Joe Rogan did.
It worked for Trump.
Yeah.
It worked for Trump. It worked for Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was just dumb at people for like 1,700 episodes. So buckle up, boys and girls. There, we got about 1,700 to go of these, and we'll make a name for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
That's how this works.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
Well-
podcast listener, tell your friend, and we'll double our audience.
Tell your one friend that you have, because you're probably a loser like us.
And if you by chance have lady friends, also tell them to listen to us because we don't discriminate. All right.
We don't.
Alrighty. Well, hey, thanks for listening. This was a longer one, and we'll see you guys later.
Goodbye.
See ya.